Okay, off you go.
So welcome everybody. If you don't know me already, this is just a bit about me, about the kinds of things I'm doing. So I'm a coach, NLP practitioner. If anybody doesn't know what NLP is, Neuro-Linguistic Programming. I started first of all coaching in 2014. I was a bit disillusioned, working in-house, down south actually, in Whitstable. And one day I thought, oh my gosh, what am I doing? So I had this weird thing of, I need to go and find myself, which is where I went down the self-development route of NLP and coaching. And what I started to realize is, when you start to understand the people you're leading and start listening to them, there's great value in that, there's great growth. And I wanted to do more of it. At the time, I was working as a lawyer, and I enjoyed that, but I enjoyed, as I said, the leading side. I didn't enjoy the strategy and operations and saving all this amount of money for corporations all the time. Like insurance companies were my clients, and I thought, what more can I do? At the time, then I transitioned and became a team leader. I became a team leader, and I started to understand people's problems. And they're the biggest crux for managers as well, where they go, oh gosh, see how they drained my energy, how, you know, people come to you for all kinds of reasons, but they want that reassurance, they want to be listened. And the biggest thing I found was when I started going on an individual basis, that there were some real problems behind the scenes. It's not the work, it's about the person behind the scenes. And I want to do more of that. Unfortunately, what was triggering a lot of the time for me was working for a company that didn't align with my values. Now, I don't know how many people look at their own values and what aligns with them. For me, it's variety. I need a variety. I need connection. I need compassion, self-care and honesty. Why is self-care important? Because if you don't look after yourself, you're not going to be looking after all those around you either. So that was a big shift for me to understand that. Also, I'm a mum to 2 children there. I've got a 5-year-old and an 8-year-old, which is testing. And also I've written a book called From Pain to Power, which released in July actually, so that I can serve more people. And like you've noticed, the reason why it's chronic pain I'm doing is because I recovered myself, and I feel like it's my purpose to share that message with other people around the world actually, not just in this country. So this is the overview of chronic pain. And if I asked any of you guys, have you ever suffered chronic pain? You would have a show of hands. Yeah. So chronic pain, what actually is it? Some people don't really know. Ongoing pain, persistent pain. You could have migraines. They could be on and off. That's chronic pain. But you've not had an injury or accident. So it's, you know, it persists longer than 3 months. And we've got the World Health Organization who said there'll be 843 million cases by 2050. Phenomenal. Now you can see here the most common causes: back pain, headaches, joint pain, and they're more predominant in women than they are in men. I mean, there's more ongoing research. It could be you've got menopause, you've got other issues happening with women biologically, which is why, but you will see it in the workplace a lot of the time as well. So a lot of these issues are happening right now, and people aren't aware that actually that kind of these problems is, even though you've not got an injury or accident, actually how is this manifested? So these are the types of chronic pain apart from your usual neck pain, back pain. Now, a lot of people think arthritis, we're getting older, that's why we're getting joint problems, but actually it's still the same issues that are rising. You know, like we look at the emotional impact we've seen here, anxiety and depression. Now that is a big thing. So for example, when I was suffering from pain, and I can give my example because everybody's different, but when I started having pain, I couldn't touch my toes. I started getting scared. I started thinking, I'm going to damage myself. If I walk any further, it's going to damage me. But the reality is actually that isn't indicative of pain. It's a myth. And in reality, what's happening is because I'm highly anxious or my nervous system is heightened on a false alarm, what's happening is that's the pain. So it's all the messages from our brain coming down to our nervous system or into our gut. You know, when people say, oh, I keep going to the toilet a lot. I know women, I know I said it when I had children, I thought, oh, that's why it is. Actually, it's not. It can be through anxiety, but you don't know it because it's in your subconscious. So you start suppressing emotions. So those emotions where you go, oh, I'm not an angry person, or no, I'm not like that, I'm really kind. Well, actually you are subconsciously, but you don't know how to deal with confrontation. You don't set boundaries with other people. So a lot of things that are manifesting in our own thoughts and feelings is created by us, but we don't know it. And that's the problem here. You know, you've got people, you socially withdraw, don't you? So if I had to sit down somewhere or stand somewhere, I knew I didn't want to go somewhere. In lockdown, when I had pain, it was one of the, I don't know if it was one of the best times or the worst times, because the best time because you don't see many people, but one of the worst times, and that I was socially withdrawn. I wouldn't share with friends. I didn't share with anyone because it's embarrassing. Who do you want to share that with? By the way, I don't want to be known as a person, oh yeah, she's got pain, she can't stand. You know, the sympathy. I wanted to be known as the strong one that I was, the positive person that I was. So there's so many things that are going on in a person's head, but no one is going to understand it because it's invisible. That's the simple truth. Chronic pain is invisible. Now, the one thing I started to learn about was the mind-body connection. So, an example there, I can't walk for too long. I can't. These are the kind of words I used as well. And if I had to reframe that, I was like, I can't do it yet, but maybe I can. So I started realizing that through this mind-body connection, that actually it was a psychological, it wasn't actually a physical problem. Even though I had an MRI scan that showed a severe disc prolapse, I should be having this surgery. I started thinking, okay, what can I do? I got myself a coach from LA, a lady who recovered from chronic fatigue syndrome and fibromyalgia after 16 years, because she started to learn. And what I did was, every day I'd go, right, I'm going to walk 3 minutes, or I'm going to stand for 3 minutes. And it didn't matter if I had to sit down somewhere, I would stand back up. And then I used to look at like a lamppost as my first thing. If I couldn't do it, I'd do it on the second day. And it's about really retraining that brain where we go, actually, it's difficult now and the pain's still there, but how can I reframe that every day? And to share that emotion. So I used to journal a lot, and I used to write it down, and days were like groundhog days, the same thing, or you have setbacks. So that's why neuroplasticity comes in, and it happens, average they say about 66 days, about habits, but it could be a variation depending on what kind of person you are. Are you the type that will say, well actually, you know, the group around you might say, actually, why don't you go for that surgery? I've had it, it's worked really well, but you're not really ready. And I spoke to a surgeon actually a couple of months ago, an American surgeon, and that's all he knew, surgery. And he said to me, Narinder, I wish I hadn't done it. He goes, actually surgery, very minimal that need it. He goes, what they need to learn is about the anxiety that they're suffering. And he wouldn't recommend surgery on anyone unless they have 8 weeks of complete calm and to relax that nervous system, because he said they will come out with a worse outcome. And even surgery only lasts approximately 2 years unless you change your whole lifestyle. So what does that include? Nutrition, your sleep patterns, and sleep is a big thing with chronic pain. You know that you're not going to sleep, and you fear it, and you anticipate, oh gosh, how can I sleep on a bed? I mean, I slept on a floor for a number of months, and even when I went back to a bed, it was like a process. It's not like jumping out of bed. So you've got to think of ways of who can help you. Can you reach out and get support? And one of the things I've put here is pain is a protector for the brain. We look at pain and we fear it, or we go, oh gosh, that pain's come on. But what's happening in our day? How many of us are running around running a business, or you feel like, oh my gosh, you know, oh, I've got that twinge that's come back, or say you have had an accident, you've had surgery, and it usually heals, so it shouldn't continue the pain. But what happens is the brain's very clever and it memorizes pain, so it comes back to the place where you always feel it. But it's about how do you start doing that self-talk to your brain. One of the biggest things was mindset for me. A really great book, Dr. Carol Dweck. Has anyone heard of The Mindset? Now, it's about the growth. I mean, and that bit where she's shifted, I can't to I can't yet. I really think that's such a game changer, because a lot of people like to stop themselves and rather say, it's like me, I'll say, I'm not good at technology, I've already protected myself, you know, I'm not good at it. But what about if we could say, well actually we could try a little bit at a time and break it down so our brains don't catastrophize. It's like a marathon. I did a half a marathon in 2015, I think, and I thought, oh my gosh, I can't do a half a marathon. How can I do that? But again, it's about the steps that you take day in, day out, and it does take resilience, it does take persistence. But again, who are your cheerleaders? It might not be family members. Family members mean well, but they don't know what they don't know. They don't know how you feel or think. Everybody's different. So if there are other people in your network, always reach out. Like there, I talk about failure, and it's never failure, is it? It's like in business. How much do we do things and they don't work out? But it's about trying new things. But it also is about not doing everything all in one go. So what you want to do is go, actually, shall I just do this? And a lot of the time, it's about letting go. I remember when I was in so much pain and the gyms were all closed in lockdown, and I was like, damn it, I need to go. So I emailed this guy, a great author of a book called The Great Pain Deception, and he goes, Narinder, he goes, it's a great thing that the gym has closed. He goes, now you can be present and being rather than the doing. And I didn't get it at the time. I was like, oh God, what does he mean? But really, it's relaxing that mind. What are you doing to relax? Are you having time for yourself, or are you doing everything for everybody else? Now, I had 2 young children at the time, so I pushed their needs in front of mine. I had suffered grief years earlier. My dad was dying of cancer. I was watching him die every day, so it was like that whole suppression of emotion. And then you got married, and then you got a baby, and then you're moving house. So all those stresses come all at once, the layering on top. And then you're going to be at a point where you're at breaking down. That anxiety and depression is that overload. So how can you reflect back? How can you think, actually, you know, I had a lot on my plate, actually. Let me be kind to myself, rather than going, do you know what, why didn't I cope with that? I should have coped, I should have. So it's changing the language of how we speak to ourselves. So strategies, I mean, there's lots of strategies. These are just some that I used. Now, you know, I never really understood meditation. You know, when people talk about it and go, oh yeah, meditate. But I needed to when I was in pain, because that was the first time I thought I need to do something. But I thought, how do you start? So I did guided meditation, headspace, there's balance, or there's calm. And I just did 5 minutes, really. And then I had somebody called Joe Dispenza, if anybody's heard of him. He's amazing. But he did 20-minute meditation. And no word of a lie, I used to get about half walk, because I hardly had much sleep, to be fair. And I'd go, come on. I used to pray to God as well. I used to go, please let me get out of this, because I don't want my children seeing me in this way. I want to be able to pick them up and do stuff. And I started getting emotional. You know, I started crying, and I used to think, oh gosh, what's happening? And I could feel this power, that there was something within me. I also tried EFT, actually, and I realized, and what's funny is, I used to have this burning sensation in my calf, because the pain was really unbearable. It's sciatic pain, and obviously it's pressing on my disc, and the emotions, because it was so strong, that the pain heightened. And then when I started soothing myself, the pain decreased. And that's when you start realizing actually the brain plays a very vital role in the physical sensations. Those physical sensations are safe if you believe that it's from the brain, and that's the biggest thing. Positive affirmations, I didn't believe them at the time, but I started saying things like, I am healing and I feel fantastic. And I thought, oh gosh, I don't believe this, because I'm not in that state. No word of a lie, within 2 months, that actually worked. It started embedding in my subconscious. And the more I did, what I did was small little actions, like I told you earlier, just 2 or 3 minutes. It could have been easily as, oh please let me stand in the shower for a minute. That was one of my goals. And I tell you what, that feeling when you stand under the shower, when you have no pain, because before that, it was like a struggle, a real struggle. Goal setting, like we do in business, it's the same with pain, weirdly enough. It's just, what would you like to do, even if it's about getting dressed or getting out the house. So many people I speak to at the moment, they don't even want to leave the house. They can't be bothered to get changed, because their mind is such in a different place. They're overwhelmed, they're not in that, even that level of action. But that's still a win, a small win, but it's a win, and that's what people got to see it as. And like social support, the thing I've set up the Pain Cafe is for that social support, to help people to recognize that they're not alone. So a lot of the time you want to keep that pain within you and that struggle, whereas really what I'm trying to say is actually there's a safe space where you don't have to pay, but you can talk about it in a confidential space with a coach, but also expert speakers, and they can range from, you know, practitioners. I've got a nurse practitioner coming in, a menopause one on the 10th, actually next Tuesday, to give some awareness. And it's awareness and understanding is where the real crux is before we can start to go, okay, we'll start to take some action. Practical tools, you know, journaling, that's just one way. People say, well, I don't know what to write about. You can write about anything you want. You don't have to, but there can be themes. I always recommend doing not last thing at night, because that can go into your subconscious, into your dreams or anything else. But that really helped me just to notice more patterns for me. Some people don't like doing it because they've probably got a lot of demons in there and they don't really want to face that. And a lot of the time with chronic pain, it can start in your childhood. Adverse childhood experience is a really big one, and you don't realise it. I mean, the biggest one for me was noticing when I was going through pain that actually I saw my mother have a mental breakdown age 5. Now that was really huge, but I packed it away somewhere because for me it was like, oh, okay. And then I went through life, but what happens is you trigger through life and you still keep triggering, but you think it's something else or something else. But in reality, it's due to something that might have happened in your childhood. It could be trauma, something you've witnessed or seen or heard. And so in our lives, we start to recognize what could be affecting us. Visualizations a really good one. For me, I used to use it actually. First thing I used to get out of bed, I used to think, gosh, how was I when I used to jump out of bed? So I used to visualize that first thing in the morning. kept on doing it, and it actually worked for me. So it's about the feelings, what you're seeing, what you're hearing, all of these kind of senses that we're used to knowing. So if you can remember a time, it's really good to try and visualize that if you are visual. And movement, like I said, getting out of bed, getting your 5 minutes outside. You know, sometimes we're stuck at a desk if we're remotely working and we think, oh, I've got to finish that last thing, I forgot to. Or we ignore the pain, don't we? Because it's not that bad sometimes, and we ignore it. But those whispers turn louder and louder until it's telling you to stop, because something is really causing that pain, but it's more than you realize. And that's when you have to take a step back and think, actually, what am I doing? Am I doing about 50 things that are not serving me because I'm not sleeping at night? What can I do? And I always recommend to have your own time, a little bit of time, for women and men, where you've got an hour to yourself. Just force that time where you're thinking about how can I help myself to become better. And those are the only things that I've got for today. Probably a shorter presentation than I thought, but that's my book as well that I created last month. As I said, a lot of that, why I loved why I needed to do that book was a lot of people didn't understand about coaching for chronic pain. No one sees it as a first method. They go, oh, okay. But a lot of that stuff is about exercises, my personal journey, but also entwining it is what, you know, people aren't alone in that. Like I had one coaching client who recently finished the book but highlighted bits, and she goes, I've noticed when I'm on holiday I have no pain. She has facial pain. She has no pain at all. But when she comes back to this country, she had pain. And I said, what were you noticing? What was happening to you? So the key is to find those light bulb moments to know what's going to help you and what not. There's no one size fits all, but you'll recognize some of the triggers and some you might just need some awareness. Thank you very much, and those are my details as well.